So from a 30-second commercial to breaking news, Tim, for you, Donald J. Trump on Truth Social, and it's pretty long, has posted that he is endorsing in the Texas Senate runoff Ken Paxton. No huge surprise. The incumbent, John Cornyn, said just yesterday that, that ship has sailed. He was not expecting the endorsement. Wow. But it's interesting when you, and I've only skimmed it, to be fair, because it was just handed to me. He called Ken a true MAGA warrior who has always delivered for Texas. It's not until paragraph 4 he brings up John Cornyn, where he says, he's a good man. I worked well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough, which is pretty much Donald Trump's decision-making in a nutshell. Yeah. Support me or else.
I don't know. I think this is pretty telling. It's a little bit of a back down for Trump. Cornyn won. They're in a runoff now. So in the first round of balloting, Cornyn had the lead, and Trump had said he was going to endorse the person that won the first round of balloting because he didn't want this long, drawn-out primary. Thought it might hurt the eventual nominee against James Tallarico. Huge backlash among his supporters, MAGA supporters, to that idea that he would endorse Cornyn, and then he kind of went quiet on the race for a while. For him to now flip and endorse Paxton, who lost in the first round, to me, I think shows it's kind of a similar story to the Massey story. He's worried about losing ground really for the first time in a long time with his MAGA base. And while, they might not have a majority in opposition to him, the fact that he feels the need to try to shore that up by endorsing Ken Paxton, a very risky bet, tons of baggage, and very possible that he could lose to James Tallarico, and that could be the deciding vote in the Senate. I think making such a risky bet to appease his MAGA allies shows you that Trump's worried about losing altitude with his own base.
Let me go back, if I can, to Michael Schnell. You may be in Kentucky, but you have followed from your perch on the Hill this Texas race very closely. What's your impression of this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive move and a massive development for Senate GOP leadership. Think about somebody like John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader. He had been pressing President Trump and his team to endorse John Cornyn in this race. The establishment Republicans up on Capitol Hill wanted to see John Cornyn have another term in the Senate. So this is a massive blow to them and will have likely significant implications for that Texas Senate runoff that's happening next week. And I think as I'm here in Kentucky and we're talking about this Trump retribution tour, John Cornyn is somebody who just had more of a bipartisan flair up on Capitol Hill. He liked to work with Democrats. He supported more of those bipartisan deals. He voted for them. He helped craft them, working with his colleagues. And he was a bit skeptical of President Trump's comeback. So it just shows that sort of this is what Thomas Massey's going through. It's what Bill Cassidy just went through. It's what those Indiana state senators are going through. That in this modern day Republican Party, if you are not completely in lockstep with President Trump, there could be some of these repercussions. Clearly, that happened in Indiana. It happened in Louisiana. It's happening right now in Texas. That's what Thomas Massey is trying to show doesn't always have to be the case. But as we're seeing, this seems to be the political gravity right now in the Republican Party. So just a fascinating development that President Trump had pushed off for so long. And again, a really big blow for Republican leadership up on Capitol Hill right now. Folks who were really pressing President Trump's team to go with a Cornyn endorsement. Obviously, the news right now that he has gone with a Paxton endorsement.
Yeah, with that as the backdrop, if I can, there's a new poll from the Barbara Jordan Public Policy Research and Survey Center at Texas Southern University. And what that found was a razor-thin margin between the two potential candidates. It found Senator John Cornyn leading Democrat James Tallarico by 1% in a hypothetical matchup. Ken Paxton and James Tallarico are tied at 45%. So obviously, these are results within the margin of error. Now, I just got this from Tallarico for Texas, which is the statement they put out. And he said, as I said on primary night, it doesn't matter who wins this runoff. We already know what we're running against, the billionaire mega donors and their corrupt political system. So I wonder, when you take all of that information together, Tim, what you make of it.
Well, look, I think it's going to be still a tough race for James Tallarico. It's Texas, after all, but this is obviously a preferable opponent, and it makes sense that he doesn't want to say that, but it helps them make that case against corruption, which he's been making on the campaign trail during the primary. To have an opponent who is corrupt, who'd been indicted, who's going to be backed by, the big donors in the Epstein class, I think that makes his case much easier. It's going to be a challenging race. Look, I mean, I think that Tallarico has run a good campaign so far and recognizes that he's got to win over some Trump voters. And I think the Paxton nomination makes that case a little bit easier for him in what's going to be a tough race. And I just have to say, a really humiliating moment for John Cornyn, who was, at times independent and bipartisan. It's true on the Hill, but during this campaign did not do what Thomas Massie did. And he sucked up to Trump as much as possible and really groveled in front of Trump to try to get his endorsement and win him over, and to have the rug pulled out for him in the end here, and for that to be the end of his career, I think is pretty embarrassing.